Matt, so it seems that John Bones Jones decided to go the way of Eddie in the song Into the Great Wide Open by Tom Petty, because Eddie waited till he finished high school. He went to Hollywood, got a tattoo. He met a girl there with a tattoo too. The future was wide open. And as the chorus of that song goes, into the great wide open, into the skies of blue, and so on and so forth. And John Jones decided that it was time to go to greener and larger pastures. So he's moved up to heavyweight. He's vacated his title. And all of a sudden, one of the things that we like to harp on at Fight Night Picks is you don't deserve a title shot with a loss. But I'll tell you who does. It's Dominick Reyes and maybe Thiago Santos. But Dominick Reyes is going to be taking on Jan Blachowicz. And Matt, I'm really excited about this fight because this is one of the better fights on the card. I can certainly see it deliver. And it's one of those ones where either guy can definitely have a path to victory and either guy can finish his opponent. It's not one of those ones where it's going to be a sleeper. It's going to be a boring fight. This one should certainly deliver. Now, I might end up eating my words late Saturday night, but here's hoping that the Devastator coming off that loss against John Jones, a lot of people saw the fight for him. Now, what makes it interesting in the Thiago Santos reference that I made is Santos had a win over Jan Blachowicz. Santos also lost that fight to Jones by split decision, whereas Dominick Reyes lost by unanimous decision. Now, we can argue till the cows come home in the pastures of the great wide open, but I thought that John Jones won that fight. I know that might seem somewhat controversial, but I did see it 3-2 for Jones. Now, in terms of the fights that Dominick Reyes has put on up until that point, the one fight that really concerned me was the fight over or against Volkan Oezdemir. I had seen that fight Oezdemir's way, but there's a lot of things that Dominick Reyes does well that can counter Jan Blachowicz. I just want to get this out of the way right now. If you're a big fan of Jan Blachowicz and you're really in the corner because he had the knockout win over Luke Rockhold, he had a knockout over Beaston 25-8 Corey Anderson, Bellator's own in his last fight out, you might want to go back and pay special attention to the fight that he had against Jacare Souza, because that fight was actually a lot closer than just a W on a record. It was probably one of the most boring fights. You might want to watch it on 2-speed. But the problem in that one was Blachowicz wasn't really able to get into his rhythm. And he's a really odd fighter, not just in the way that he carries himself, not the fact that he's a 37-year-old former KSW light heavyweight champ who has a win and a loss to Sokaju. He's a really interesting cat in the cage because his jiu-jitsu is on point. He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. His striking, very sneaky. He can check leg kicks. He can throw leg kicks. He can throw to the body. He throws wonderful hooks. These are some of the best hooks in MMA, and there's a ton of power behind them. And there's a lot of people that say, well, you know, you knock out Corey Anderson, you knock out Luke Rockhold, you don't really have any knockout power. Whoa, easy does it. This guy can certainly beat the best light heavyweights on any given day, and he has an opportunity to do it here. So, Matt, I kind of focused on both of these guys. I'm really excited about this fight. Take this where you want to go, but please don't make another Tom Petty reference.
I won't, don't worry. Light heavyweight's in a really fun place right now just because you finally have the king is gone, and there's about 6 or 7 contenders who all seem to be around the same level. Guys like Glover, guys like Thiago, Dominick Reyes, Jan Blachowicz. Like, it's a fairly talent-rich division, and some of that talent is now going to flourish because you have such a dominant champion removed from the picture. So I think we're going to have a revolving door of title or of champions in this division, just because I think Dominick Reyes might be a little bit better than some of these other guys, or Jan Blachowicz might be better, but stylistically, they all kind of match up well with each other. And I think what'll really come down to just the matchups. Maybe Thiago Santos could beat Dominick Reyes, but Jan Blachowicz can beat Thiago in a rematch. Like, I think we are going to get a little bit of parity in this weight class for a while now. Dominick Reyes on paper has a lot of advantages over Jan Blachowicz, though. He's bigger, he's faster. I'd say he hits a little bit harder to strike for strike. And you look at the evolution of Dominick Reyes' striking. Dan Hardy was talking about this in his breakdown of this fight. It's that when you look at some of the shots and some of his techniques from early on in his career, you kind of see them being replicated as his career's progressed. And it's just kind of a cleaner, more crisp version. He's got that really nice kind of pullback left hand. He used it on Chris Weidman. And I know using it on Chris Weidman's one thing and Jan Blachowicz is another, but still, it's the technique itself, not really who it was used against. And he's really refined some of those better ones in his arsenal. First of all, Dominick Reyes, quit talking about how good you were at sports in high school. That's weird. Like, you're wicked at MMA. You have other accomplishments to go back to. I don't really care about you losing like a high school football game, but that's just a little side note.
All state, bro.
Oh, yeah, settle down. So Jan Blachowicz is just weird because I couldn't really tell you how he wins a lot of his fights. Like, you watch him, and what he does is not to say basic, but it kind of is. He throws hooks, he throws leg kicks. He doesn't seem to be the fastest. He doesn't really seem to hit the hardest. He doesn't have like Rumble Johnson-esque power. But when he lands on people, like Luke Rockhold doesn't have a great chin, but the punch that Blachowicz landed on him, that like long left hook coming out of the clinch, it looked like he got shot by a shotgun with Rockhold. Like he went down hard. And the follow-up shots were great. Now, you bring up the Jacare fight, and I think it's an important fight to bring up. But I think you kind of have to just take Jan Blachowicz' word for it. He said he was really tentative because he didn't want to let his hands go and potentially get taken down because Jacare is such a dangerous guy. And if he got to opposition on Jan Blachowicz, yes, Jan is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but there's levels with being a black belt in jiu-jitsu and being Jacare Souza. And I think
that's something that Corey Anderson tried to exploit because there's levels, but it didn't work for him.
Yeah, and the Corey Anderson fight, I was worried for Jan going into that fight because their first fight, Corey Anderson beat the brakes off him. I mean, he kept a pace up that Jan couldn't deal with. He took him down multiple times. But I thought Jan made a lot of really nice adjustments going into that rematch, and I think that shows the evolution of his career. Yeah, he's 36, 37, but it's not like he's stopped getting better. Every fight, every performance, we keep on seeing him getting better. And after the Thiago Santos loss, I thought, okay, this is probably it for Jan Blachowicz. Like, that was his last run. But even at this stage in his career, he's still putting out really exciting and really great performances against the top level guys at 205.
And who would have thought it? I mean, you look at Jan Blachowicz's record, and to start off 2-4, the losses to Jimmy Manuwa, Corey Anderson, Alexander Gustafsson, and Pat Cummins. And that was the start. And since then, he's gone 7-1. The one loss to Thiago Santos. I mean, the hammer. That's going to happen. But the wins, Devin Clark, Jared Cannonier. Cannonier at light heavyweight, maybe not as good as Cannonier at middleweight.
Still pretty
beats
good.
Beats Manuwa in the rematch. Beats Krylov by submission. That's not that easy. Look at Nikita Krylov. And that guy is a submission specialist and a really streaky fighter. Beats Rockhold, beats Jacare, and then beats Anderson in the first round. Calls out John Jones. Seemed like that was going to happen back at Rio Rancho. It did not. And that was right after John Jones had fought Dominick Reyes in a fight that was incredibly controversial, albeit a win by unanimous decision. So kind of focus a little bit on both of these fighters. We look at Dominick Reyes too, and I mean, I had mentioned that win that he had over Volkan Oezdemir, but he also knocked out Jared Cannonier. He also had a good fight against Sylvain St. Preux, the split decision to Oezdemir, and the knockout over Weidman, which was, what are we doing here? Like,
sad.
Really, that's at that point, that's what you needed for a title shot. Now you just need a loss, right? There's an ode to the earlier portion of the video. Now, if we look at this fight in terms of the odds, are you at all surprised that you have such a favorite in Dominick Reyes? He opened a -200. That line's dropped to -284. I don't like that. I mean, this is a guy that, again, he's fought, I would say at this point, no time Volkan Oezdemir. He's pretty well a power puncher, and that's kind of the game plan. You kind of figured out what he's going to do pretty well every time out. He beat him, but, it leaves more to be desired. Exactly. But Dominick Reyes did put on such a good performance against John Jones. How big of a decline is John Jones on? We have to ask those questions now because he's not hanging out at the top of the light heavyweight division. He's chasing legacy fights at heavyweight. So you disagree with these odds?
I do, because it's hard to justify being a 3-1 favorite over a guy who's won, like you said, 7 of his last 8 when your best performance came in a loss. Now, yes, it was against arguably the greatest fighter of all time, but it's a guy who has looked somewhat human, I'd say, since he came back after the second DC fight, because yeah, he beat Gustafsson, but that's an older Gustafsson who hadn't fought in a while. Then he beats Anthony Smith, and then he beats Thiago Santos and Dominick Reyes. Like, those last 3 guys, I wouldn't say are really on the same level historically of some of the other 3 fight stretches that John Jones has gone on. It doesn't really, add up to the Rampages, the DCs, like the Glovers. There's better guys out there that he has fought and that he's looked a lot better against. I think Dominick Reyes should be respected and should be the favorite in this fight, but he shouldn't be a borderline 3-1 favorite because Jan Blachowicz, he's a really smart fighter. Like you had mentioned, checks leg kicks too. That was a problem for him early in his career. And in the Luke Rockhold fight, you really saw it because every time Luke Rockhold threw a kick, he would just check. And Luke Rockhold would have to switch stances. And then he just kind of stopped throwing the leg kick at one point because Jan Blachowicz would make him pay for it every time. And Jan won't only make you pay for it by checking. He'll let you hit some of those leg kicks and then punish you with power and kind of leap in with punches. He's got kind of that stiff way of striking, which always gets me a little concerned when he is fighting those upper echelon strikers, because we saw in the Thiago Santos fight, they were just kind of going 50-50 for a lot of it. And Jan, it just seemed like he was always expecting Thiago Santos to do something big in that fight. Because that's what Thiago Santos does. So he kind of wait and wait and wait. And when Thiago Santos was just kind of countering, Jan decided, okay, I'm going to go forward, rushes forward, and then Thiago Santos backing up, hits him with like an overhead left and knocks him out. I don't see that happening in this fight. I do see Dominick Reyes kind of being the one bringing the fight to Jan Blachowicz. And that's the best version of the fight that we're going to get. Because Dominick Reyes at his best is the enforcer. He's using his size. He's kind of using his physical presence to bully Jan Blachowicz around the cage. But Jan, as a counter striker, that's really where his game's going to open up and he's going to get the most out of it. Because if Dominick Reyes is pushing forward, and we saw with the John Jones fight, if you think he won, then yes, he won the first 3 rounds. If you think he lost, or then he won the first 2 rounds. But he did fade at that as that fight went on. And yes, fading against John Jones is one thing compared to fading against Jan Blachowicz, and the outputs of both guys are going to be able to keep up. But even if you think Dominick Reyes is better than Jan, at a certain point in that fight, I do think cardio makes it about a 50-50 fight. So I don't this is more tying into the odds. I don't think Dominick Reyes should be respected as 3-1 favorite.
Okay, so I do like the respect. Now, Matt, I pose this question in the Fight Night Picks community tab over on YouTube. So if you're watching this, you can head over there and vote as well. We've got almost as many votes as there are on Tapology. So I'm going to go with the Fight Night Picks numbers for this one. So I put it out there, full card preview, set to drop on Tuesday night, fingers crossed, late Tuesday night. Who's going to get the win? 73% going Reyes out of 749 votes. And I'm going to go through a couple of the comments because Akash Deep is a guy that's been following us for quite some time. So shout out to Western Canada. He says, I honestly think Jan takes it. Reyes seems overconfident from the Jones performance. And I feel like Jan knows he's getting up there in age and wants to win the title. I see Jan finish. There's another one by Kyle OM who says, I picked against Jan for his last 3, 4, even 5 fights, and I'm done with that Polish power. So it seems like there's a lot of people going with Jan Blachowicz. And as I go through, it's Jan. And one that's Reyes destroys Blachowicz, TBH. Reyes and Kara France is amazing pair of picks there. So with that, all that being said, I look at this from a couple of different angles, and I bring up that Jacare fight because I really think that it does hold water. You don't have to worry about Dominick Reyes to really bring this fight down to the ground. The guy's takedown accuracy, 16% through this point. It's one of those things where you're not going to take down a guy that's so credentialed a grappler. So that's probably not going to happen. But I do like the takedown defense number at 82% for Reyes. I don't really see Jan Blachowicz fishing. Maybe he does and tries to expend the cardio of Reyes. But I think Reyes is probably going to be able to keep it standing with the length that he has and the defensive wrestling that he has. In terms of the striking differential, that's a number that I always bring up. It's a positive 1.88 for Dominick Reyes. It's a positive 0.68 for Jan Blachowicz. And that speaks to the counters in the boxing of Dominick Reyes versus maybe some of those single and more power shots that you're going to get from Jan Blachowicz. So you like the countering of Blachowicz. You like the leg checks. I think Dominick Reyes, as this fight goes forward, it's going to favor Reyes a little bit more. I think he's probably shored up a few of those holes in his game that we saw against John Jones. And Jan Blachowicz and John Jones are definitely not the same fighters. So I don't see 37-year-old Jan Blachowicz as it gets into a 4th and 5th round, really just his cardio going, like he's not Kamaru Usman in rounds 4 and 5. I don't see that happening. I see this the way of Dominick Reyes. And it's going to be interesting because if Reyes wins, there's a rematch right there you can set up with John Jones if anything happens down the road, or maybe have him fight Thiago Santos. If Blachowicz wins, you have plenty of rematches that you can make, probably with Thiago Santos. So, Matt, I'm really looking forward to this one. And I've got Reyes, so let me hear your pick here.
So if 2020 wasn't crazy enough, I'm about to really say the words, I think Jan Blachowicz is going to be the UFC light heavyweight champion this year. And again, am I that confident with the pick? Not really. I don't know if you can tell by the way that I said it. But I do think he just has a lot of the intangibles that Dominick Reyes doesn't, sheerly due to his experience. He's fought for the KSWs. He's fought high-level competitions in the past. He's been champion in the past.
Twice.
Yeah, exactly. And Sokoju at one point was a bit of a problem. So Jan Blachowicz has the experience factor. I think in the clinch where this fight's going to find itself, I think Jan Blachowicz has really nice damaging shots. He's got good elbows. Again, we saw that in the Rockhold fight. And he's good at making you pay for entering and exiting the clinch. And I think that's the position this fight's going to be in quite a bit. So I just think Jan Blachowicz does a lot of the little things that are going to get this fight won for him. And yeah, I'm picking Jan Blachowicz to be the light heavyweight champion.
Well, regardless of who you go with, Matt, it's going to be and new on Saturday night. I'm going with Dominick Reyes. You're going with Jan Blachowicz. I'm really looking forward to this card. Make sure you stay tuned for a main event pick, an extended look at Israel Adesanya, looking to keep his title, taking on Paulo Borrachinha Costa, the Eraser. Matt, great playlist, great fights on this card. Let's keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt. And as we always say, let's get into it.